students and scholars, teachers and trainers, professors and professionals, listeners and learners, those who are watching from the field of science, religion, spirituality, arts, commerce and engineering, the most honorable President Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, respected ministers and doctors, honorable advocates, advertisers, administrators and advisors, reverend fathers and mothers, affectionate sons and daughters. I, Dr. Rakesh from USA, heartily, cordially welcome all of you. It is really nice time, nice place, nice section. You are listening with your 100% presence and of mind. It is really praiseworthy, admirable and appreciable moment of life that you are providing your most valuable time of your life in listening the truth of science and spirituality from language to literature. Dear friends, earlier we have analyzed Rabbi ben Ezra. The poem is narrated by Rabbi ben Ezra, a real 12th century scholar. It has a strong history behind it. In historically we have studied that Ibn Ezra or Ben Ezra was a historical figure. His full name was Abraham ben Mir ben Ezra. He was also known as Abenir or Avenur. He was the most famous of Jewish literates of the period. He born in 1090 at Toledo. He left Spain for Rome in 1140, lived at Mantua in 1145, at Rhodes in 1155 and 1156, in England 1159 and died in 1168. So these are important dates related to this poem. Historically you have to keep in your mind while studying about Rabbi ben Ezra, a real 12th century scholar. The piece does not have a clearly identified audience or dramatic situation. Rabbi says that the best part of a man's life is old age. The prospect of approaching old age should not terrify youth for youth. And old days are wisely planned by God. This is the great gift of God. If we have old men at our home, this is the great blessing and grace of God. Really we are praiseworthy and admirable if we are serving them with the core of our heart. Definitely we will be blessed and graced by Lord. Youth is but a preparation for this last and the best period of life, old age. Last of life, for which the first was made. Means that old age is the second form of our childhood. To get pleasure in our life, it was explained by William Wordsworth, return to your childhood, return to your nature. When you will become natural, when you will recollect and remember your past, definitely you will get a lot of pleasure, some moments of your life. Youth is undoubtedly the period of high hopes and daring aspirations. The youth is never satisfied with the existing order of things. As he finds in the world, whatsoever we have around us in the form of existence of the things that should be satisfiable for a man. He should not desire in our life. As Swami Vivekananda explained through his words, man should work unrelentingly, unceasingly, unstoppingly, undesiringly, without having any expectation. If we will work and unrelentingly, definitely we will bring a great change in the nation and society, even in our personality and professionality. And longs for objects, we should keep away our longs and desires while doing work, and we are to keep our work continue by thinking that work is worship. This is the great lesson, example from our holy religions. His ideal is even higher than Jupiter and Mars. He longs to have some figured flame which blends and transcends them all. The poet is not at all critical about the hopes and fears of youth, annulling youth's brief years. He has sympathy and admiration for the impossible earnings and admiration of youth. It is the greatness of human beings that they have high hopes and aspirations. The longings of man in the period of youth are good and noble and exhibit the divine spark in that. Without these spiritual earnings, hopes and aspirations, man would no longer be a divine figure, but simply a finished and finite clod, untroubled by a spark. These noble earnings of youth elevate him above the brutes who do not have noble feelings and aspirations. If a man is satisfied merely with sensual pleasures, he will forfeit his right to be recognized as a divine human being and will descend to the level of low animals. Just as birds or beasts have no worry or anxiety if their stomachs are full, so also man will be no better than animals if he feels self-satisfied, if his hunger is appeased. So dear friends, here Robert Browning explained man's nature. But man is not an animal like other brute creations of God. Man is allied to God more than other animals. Because like God, he gives and takes not. And because the divine spark irradiates his body, Browning says, nearer we hold of God who gives than of his tribes that take. Since human beings are of divine origin, they should welcome struggle, trials and tribulations of life. They should never be daunted by failures. They should be ready to advance and make further progress. Let their joys be 3 parts pain. They should strive and hold cheap and strain. They should learn not to fret and fume about the pangs and throes that come in their lives. Learn nor account the pang, dare never grudge the throe. The purpose of human life is spiritual development. The purpose of human life is spiritual development, and the body should be employed in the attainment of the progress in spiritual life. Earthly pleasures are not an end by themselves. Their main purpose is to impress the soul with some spiritual feelings so that it may travel hopefully in its spiritual voyage. After shuffling off the betterment of spiritual life, youth is the period of vigorous activities, whereas old age is the time of contemplation. It is the privilege of man to make judgments on the activities of the life. The period of youth was a period of mere excitements, and no definite judgment could be passed on this period. But all hectic activities youth come to end in old age, and the old man can form a true estimate of his life's activities. Just as old age is necessary to find out what is good in human life, so death is necessary to take us to the next higher world. We should not fear death. The people of the world judge a man's worth by his tangible and solid achievements. It is God who takes into account all the unfulfilled hopes, aspirations, and instincts of man while judging a man's worth. God is the potter, and the soul of man is the clay. Earthly shadows will flit away, but God and soul will live forever. They are immortal. Time is wheel, runs back or stops. Potter and clay endure. God has placed human beings in the midst of plastic circumstances, so they may use them for the enrichment of their spiritual life. Man should not be lost in the dizzy raptures of present life. He should use the present for the betterment of the soul. The present life is just an agency or machinery to give thy soul its bent, so that it may travel hopefully in the world to come. The man should concentrate on the service that his soul will do to God in the kingdom of heaven. When it reaches there, after shuffling off the mortal coils, the human soul is the cup formed by God, the potter. This cup of human soul will be placed on the festal board in the dining hall of heaven, and God will fill it with the new wine of heaven and taste the wine poured in the cup. God's lips will grow ruddy as he will drink the new wine from the cup of the human soul. Rabbi Ben Ezra is now old. He is patiently waiting for the time when his soul gives up the body and ascends to heaven. All through his life, he had his eye on his spiritual heritage, and he had never lost sight of his divine home. Rabbi hopes to reach the home of God in cheerful spirit. He prays to God to take and use his soul in his and rectify all the flaws and defects which might have remained behind in the earthly existence. Dear friends, very knowledgeable, informative, instructive, and directive poem is being explained by the poet. A dramatic monologue. The great Jewish scholar Rabbi Ben Ezra is the speaker who expresses his philosophy in the poem. The great Jewish scholar of the Middle Ages us to grow old in his company. He does not regard old age as the worst part of life. Rather, he regards it as the best part. In his philosophy, old age is the consummation of human life, and the period of youth is but a preparation for it. Man and his future, his life are completely in the hands of God. Life was planned by him as a complete whole, in which each part has its value and significance. For the whole, youth is only one half of human life, and old age is the other half. Therefore, one should not be afraid of old age. Rather, one should welcome it. We should have full faith in God and go through the whole of life, including old age, without fear of any kind. Dear friends, you are listening Rabbi Ben Ezra, written by Robert Browning. Any present example we can taken from our present politics, our present Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, who does not care of his old age, but with full devotion and dedication serving to our nation. The Jewish scholar Ben Ezra says that in the youth age, man is full of desires, ambitions. Naturally, these desires are not fulfilled, but in it youths have no fault. The Rabbi does not find fault with the hopes and desires. In youth, a man has many desires, which may be likened to flowers, roses and lilies. A youth has numerous desires, and he cannot decide which particular desire he should resist and which he should try to achieve. Like a lady with too full a store of fine dresses, he rejects one desire as worthless, but later on remembers it and sighs for it. He regrets that he rejected it. In the same way, youth is also a period of noble ideas and ideals. A young man is not satisfied with the real and the actual, but aspires much higher. These high ideals of youth may be compared to stars. Such bright stars as Zo and Marsh do not satisfy him. He yearns for stars which could combine the glory and beauty of all stars, and would be more splendid and brilliant than any known stars. However, such noble aspirations and ideals are natural to youth, and the Rabbi sees no harm in them. Next, further he explains, his lines had been lifted from the dramatic monologue Rabbi Ben Ezra that was composed by Browning. The speaker Ben Ezra expresses his philosophy that fears, hopes, desires, ideals of youth are significant, which distinguishes man from animal. These are the indication of divine and infinite within the man. Youth is a period of hopes and fears, but the Rabbi does not find fault with such hopes and fears. A youth hopes that his desires and ideals would be fulfilled, and he is also afraid that he may fail to achieve his aspirations. But the Rabbi does not regard such hopes and fears as mere waste of time. He does not consider them as sheer folly. As a matter of fact, these fears and hopes, desires and ideals distinguish a man from the lower animals. Animals are perfect pieces of clay without any soul or the spark of the divine in them. That is why they have no infinite longings and aspirations. In other words, the hopes and fears of youth are an indication of the divine in him, of the presence of the infinite within him. The speaker, Ben Ezra, says that human life is not only for eating, drinking, and enjoying like other creatures. The worries, self-consciousness, fears, etc. of man make him superior to other creatures. Human life would be empty and meaningless. Human life would be empty and meaningless if its sole purpose were the gratification of physical desires. If man were created merely to eat and drink and indulge in physical pleasures like the lower animals and had no higher purpose in life, then his life would be futile and fruitless. In case, man will perish and his life will come to an end as soon as he has gratified his desires. But this is not so. Man has fears and doubts, and this shows that he has a soul which is immortal and will not end with the death of the body. In this respect, man is superior to the bird, which is not troubled by any cares and worries as soon as its hunger is satisfied, and to the beast, which is not troubled by any doubts as soon as its stomach is filled. If the purpose of man's life were to be limited to the satisfaction of his bodily needs, he would be no better than beasts and birds. What a fine depiction, thoughts, ideas about the purpose of human life is explained by Browning. Rabbi says that is the best of all the creatures because he may be inflicted with divine qualities. He is the doer as well as the creator. Man can go much nearer. Man should rejoice that he is allied to God, that he is akin to him who provides for others and not to those lower creatures who merely passively receive the favors of God. He does not receive favors like the lower creatures. Like God, he is also a doer and creator. Though he is of the earth like the lower animals, yet he has the divine within. The strings of doubts and fears in his soul are the divine elements in him. It is for this reason that he is nearer to God and has greater claim to kinship with God than the lower animals, who simply receive what God gives and have no divine strings within them. Animals merely receive gifts from God but have nothing to return. Man receives gifts from God and also returns them. He is not merely a receiver like other animals, but like God, he is also a giver of gift. This is the deep-seated faith of Rabbi Ben Ezra. What a mind-blowing praise of this human birth on this earth is really praiseworthy and admirable. Here, philosopher Rabbi Ben Ezra asks the man not to be disappointed in life. He encourages the man to proceed continuously to achieve his goal, even in his odd circumstances. Since man is akin to God and superior to the lower animals, he should not be afraid of misfortunes and failures which disturb the smooth course of his life. Rather, he should welcome such misfortunes, every kind of pain and trouble, disappointment and suffering that robs man of his rest, forces him to make advance on the course of life and make heroic efforts for his improvement. They incite him to even greater effort. Instead of discouraging him, he should welcome even that joy pain and trouble. He should labor hard to achieve progress and should not care for any amount of trouble which he may have to face. He should gain experience and knowledge. He should do bold deeds without caring for the dangers and difficulties that may beset his path. Presence will provide you utmost knowledge of your human life. Rabbi Ben Ezra, written by Robert Browning. This poem is a dramatic monologue. The speaker Ben Ezra, who is a Jewish scholar, expresses his philosophy. In his stanza, he says that failure implies success. The labor, the effort made by the man to achieve success is important. Man should strive without caring for the pain and suffering he has to undergo. From this view, the derives a conclusion which is rather paradoxical. A paradox is a statement, the two parts of which have opposite meaning. For example, failure implies success. The paradox is that what seems to man as failure is in reality a success. This may seem to be something mocking or ironical, but in reality, this conclusion must be a source of great comfort to man. A man should judge his success not by the result, but by the labor, the effort he has put in to achieve his aspiration. A failure is in itself a success. It implies effort and noble aspiration. Though the poet could not achieve his aim, yet the very fact that he had entertained high aims and aspirations give him considerable relief and satisfaction. He says that a man must derive comfort from the fact that he has aspired and made effort and has in this way asserted his superiority over the lower animals. A beast has no aspiration. A man without aspiration would be like a beast. He would go down in the scale of creation. The philosopher Rabbi Ben Ezra says, the man is superior to animals in this sense that his soul directs him to achieve spiritual salvation. A man can make his spiritual development. One whose body has a soul just fitted to it is no better than a brute. It is only in the case of a brute that body and soul are identical. In the case of man, the soul must be much higher than the body. A man is not satisfied when his physical needs are gratified. He has much higher needs that are spiritual needs. Unlike the beast, a man does not work merely to ensure physical satisfaction. The taste of a man is that his body, exerting itself to the utmost, should be at the service of the soul. The body should push forward the soul on its lonely path of spiritual development. Each one has to work out his or her own spiritual salvation, and the body should be of help in this task. In the breast, in the beast, the soul is slave to the door. The soul is slave to the body. In man, the body is used for the good of soul. This is the difference between the man and beast. Rabbi says that the body has equal importance. We can achieve our goal through the use of physical activities and powers. We should use our body for the service of God. No doubt, as the Rabbi has told us in the previous stanza, the soul is more than the body. But this does not mean that the body has no value. Quite to the contrary, the physical powers of man are also the gifts of God, and they also have their own value and their own function. We must show our gratitude to God by putting even our physical powers to good use. To good use, the Rabbi acknowledges that the best part of his life, that is his youth, was a blessing to him, for it was in his youth that he developed profusely and perfectly the powers of his senses and other physical organs. It was in youth that his eyes, ears, and other senses were developed through his experiences of life. The various experiences were organized and stored by the brain. Therefore, his heart, the heart of man, should throb with gratitude to God for all that he has learned and gained in his youth. It is in the fitness of things that he should be grateful to God, even for the body through which he has acquired such experience and knowledge. Further, Rabbi Ben Ezra composed by Robert Browning the poem in a dramatic monologue. The speaker says, expressing his philosophy of life, the philosophy of life, that God is almighty. His plans are perfect. He places himself in the hands of God and prays to him to mold him in the way he thinks best. The heart of the great Rabbi throbs with gratitude to God for all the knowledge and experience he gained in this youth. The Rabbi now realizes the wisdom and perfection of God's plan, which forms a continuous whole from beginning to end. There are no breaks or gaps in the design of God. One part is linked up with the other to form a perfect and organic whole. Thus, youth and age are interconnected. Age is the perfection of youth. It is the knowledge and experience gained in youth which leads to the wisdom of old age. In his youth, the Rabbi saw the evidence of God's power in the universe. Now he sees the evidence of his love as well. God is not only power, he is love as well. God's plan, his design of human life is perfect. The Rabbi can find no flaws in it. He has full confidence in God. He places himself entirely in the hands of God and wishes that he should shape and mold him according to his own will. Whatever God does shall be the best for him. What a fine explanation. As per the will, skill of God, a man should work. The Rabbi wishes that the soul should get some reward for its upward strivings, and its reward, its pleasures must be proportionate to its struggles. The life of the flesh has its own pleasures and charms. Our soul is a prisoner in a beautiful body. Hence the poet calls it a rose mesh. The body drags down the soul towards earthly pleasures, while the soul struggles to rise upwards. Torn by this conflict, the soul yearns for rest. The Rabbi wishes that the soul should get some reward for its upward strivings, equal to the joys of the brute. The brute gets his pleasure without any struggle or spiritual strivings, and so the joys of the brute are called possessions. The human soul, on the other hand, has to struggle against the lure of the flesh for spiritual advancement, and its reward, its pleasures, must be proportionate to its struggles. According to Browning's philosophy, man is combination of the body and the soul. Body and soul are complementary to each other. Both are mutually helpful. The body helps the soul as the soul stands by the body. This stanza contains the very core of Browning's philosophy. Both the body and the soul are the gifts of God, and hence both of them have their own value and significance. Man should not think and act as if there were a hostility between the soul and the flesh. He should not think that he has made spiritual progress. Flesh, such a spirit shows ingratitude to God. As a matter of fact, the soul and the body are not antagonistic to each other, rather they perfect each other. So man should sign such beautiful things of the world for his enjoyment. The soul help each other, and that both are equally necessary. Thus it becomes clear that Browning advocates neither sensual indulgence nor an ascetic denial of the flesh. The ideal, according to him, each for the other's good. Rabbi ben Ezra, composed by Robert Browning. Here the Jewish scholar Rabbi ben Ezra expresses his life philosophy and says that wisdom is the heritage of youth. He mentions advantages of youth and old age. Youth struggles hard to acquire knowledge and experience. Youth is a period of preparation, so as to say, for the wisdom and wider outlook which comes with old age. This wisdom is the heritage of youth, to which the youth is entitled by virtue of its struggle for knowledge and experience. Therefore, the poet calls upon old age to grant youth, now stepping into the maturity which comes with age, the wider outlook and capacities with which the youth has become fitted all this stage. The struggles of youth, for knowledge and experience, entitle him to be called a man in the real sense of the word. It is these struggles which distinguish him from the brute. It is through these struggles that he cannot achieve manhood. In the real sense and become a god. Though in the embryo, it is only in this sense that his soul is purified of evil and the good in him is developed. It is only in this way that the divine element in him is developed and he gets nearer to God. Rabbi says that when the period of youth full of storm and struggle will come to an end, he will take rest in his old age. After that he will die and march confidently ahead in his spiritual voyage in a disembodied form. In his old age, he is fully prepared for the journey in the next world. Old age is a period of rest. Man has struggled hard in his youth, and he pauses in his struggles and takes rest in his old age. In this way, he recoups his energy and prepares himself for fresh struggle in the life to come. His struggle in the next world is bound to be an easier one. He would not have so many cares and worries, for he knows what is good for him and how he should struggle for it. He would go fearlessly to his battles in the next world, for now he knows what weapons he should use and how he should protect himself from evil and temptation, according to Browning's philosophy. Just as youth is a preparation for old age, so life in this world is a preparation for life in the other world. Rabbi says that a proper assessment of the activities of youth can be possible only in old age. Rabbi will judge in his old age what he has actually gained and what he has failed to acquire in his life. Everything will be like crystal to him in his old age. The Rabbi further says that now his youth is over and he has grown old. He is in a position to look back calmly at his life and form a correct estimate of his success or failure, what he has lost and what he has gained. He has gained wisdom and understanding, and so he now knows that though the passion of youth and its energies have been lost, there is left behind the pure gold of wisdom and experience. He can now calmly assess his life and judge what has been praiseworthy in it and what bad and undesirable. In youth, he remained lost in doubts. He could not judge the real worth and significance of his life. Now that he has grown old, he has acquired the necessary discrimination to form a correct estimate of his own life. Thus, old age is valuable. It is the period of calm thinking when a man judges disappointedly his own achievement. Rabbi says that in the evening our works come to a close. One more day is added to the past. But before the darkness of the night sets in, there is a faint glow of the twilight. Old age represents the twilight of life. Before the darkness of night, death descends on us. We have the time to review our activities in old age. Rabbi compares old age to evening, the close of day. Rabbi draws the attention of the young man that when evening falls, the work of the day is brought to a close, or we stop our activities in the evening for a short time. In the evening, sunset glow changes the grey sky into red. The sunset admonishes us that the day has become a part of the past. We muse on the good or bad acts which have been with old days. In old days, all the deeds of one's youth are revived in calm perspective. Gains or losses of youth are calculated disappointedly and calmly. It says that the old man must survey his whole life before he gives us the ghost and pass judgment on the proper utilization of the opportunities offered to him during his life. This will give him courage and strength to face life after death. Just as the close of day is the time when one ponders and muses over his failures and success during the day, so old age is the time when a man examines his past calmly. Old age is the time when the struggle of life are over and man has leisure to scrutinize, judge, and pronounce judgment of past life. When looking back over his youth from the vantage point of old age, a man realizes that some of his passions and enthusiasm, some of the ideals for which he struggled hard, were wholly right, while he was wrong and foolish in his acceptance of some particular point of view. In this way, he can form a comparative estimate of the success or failure of his life. He realizes that the experience through which he has passed, the struggle he has gone through, would be valuable to him in the life to come. He can therefore face the future with confidence, for his skill and wisdom have increased. Life is a continuous haul. Youth is a preparation for old age, and this life itself is a period of preparation for the life to come. In Browning's philosophy, it is experience which counts and not success or failure as such. According to Rabbi, all that man can do in this life is to learn by experience and use that experience for the betterment and enrichment of life. In his life on the earth, man can only get a glimpse of God's plan as regards the destiny of man. He can get occasional glimpses of God's perfect work in his life on the earth. Man is the only one of the creatures who can benefit from his past struggles and experience. The wisdom and experience acquired through the struggles of youth prepare the human soul and give it courage and self-confidence to face the future. What he learns in this life, he can put to good use in life to come. In this life, more is not given to man than to watch providence at work. An apprentice learns the mysteries of his craft and the use of his tools by watching his master at work. In the same way, man should watch the working of providence, develop his faculties, and learn the art of living. This life is meant for gaining wisdom through struggles and experiences, which prepares the soul for the life to come. The period of youth is the proper time for action and struggle. Old age is the period of repose and rest. Man in his old age should not be tempted into vigorous activities of youth. Just as old age follows, so death follows old age. In youth, it is better that a man should struggle to achieve his ideals, even though often his ways are clumsy and wrong. Even such a struggle through a process of trial and error toward some noble achievement is preferable to a passive acceptance of already exists and has been achieved by others. Just as youth is a period of struggle, so old age is a period of rest. In this part of life, there should be no further struggle. Rather, the old man should judge and examine, and in this way acquire wisdom and understanding. He should learn to discriminate between good and bad, just as in youth a man prepares and waits for old age. Similarly, in old age he should prepare and wait for death. He should not fear death, for the experience and wisdom he has gained would be of great use to him in the life to come. It is enough for old age if it can come to a definite and final conclusion about absolute values like right, good and good. Good and good. Any doubts about them and their power must be cleared off and disappear in old age. All the uncertainties clouding them in the period of youth must be swept off. It is enough now, at this stage of our life, if one can discriminate between the right, the good, and the definite, and the infinite. It is enough in this life if a man can know what is good and what is bad as clearly and definitely as he knows his own hand. In one's youth, one is bad opportunities which crowd in upon him from all sides. It is only in old age that all doubts are removed and one is perfectly sure of the right and the good. This knowledge and wisdom should give the old man courage and self-confidence to face the future. Security, for he was wisdom and experience to help him and befriend him. Though a man is commonly judged by his actual work and output by the people of the world, yet the judgment based on solid and tangible achievement need not be sound. Achieved on the material plane, the real worth of a man should be judged by other standards. In the opinion of Rabbi and Ezra, moral judgment should not be passed merely on the actual and solid achievements of a man in his life. Generally, people of the world pass judgment on the strength of actual work which could be valued and prized and which came to the standard from a low standard or level of judgment. The worth of a man must not be judged by his gross material activities called work, such visible Dear friends, rest of the things we will discuss later on. Keep continue your presence. Up to that, thanks. Nice to see all of you.